Gary, thanks for taking the time with us to talk about this very special Micromusic video release, which is now available for the first time on DVD. Now, I mean, obviously your career has been very well documented over the years, but just to highlight, I mean, since you sort of broke onto the music scene in 1979, at that point you'd had 3 #1 albums, 2 #1 singles, including a numerous top 10 hits, and had sold millions of records worldwide, all by 1981. You know, what were the main factors in you thinking of wanting to retire?
I'd become very successful in a very, very short space of time. And I'd gone from nothing to very successful. You know, in those days, arguably, it was more common to have a slightly more progressive rise, you know, and one album would come out, do all right, next album would do better, third album would be the one, and, you know, it was a progressive rise that allowed you to get used to a higher level with each time. So by the time you really, really did crack it, you kind of knew what you were doing. You knew how the press worked, and you had probably writing better songs, you know, and things like that, because you'd learned studio technique and certainly being on stage, you'd learned how to handle crowds and all the different things that could happen and could go wrong, and you were an accomplished performer. That didn't happen to me. For me, it was really, really quick, and so I didn't feel as if I knew what I was doing. Really, I didn't feel that my songwriting. I was #1, but that doesn't mean much, really. You know, I write them, and I didn't think that the songwriting had developed to any great degree, and I thought I had a lot more to learn. I felt really uncomfortable on stage, and the whole fame thing, the way the public were, and fans actually, and the press especially, was a massive shock to me, and largely unpleasant. And so my whole initial period of being famous was just, a lot of it was just really unpleasant. It's difficult to say. That sounds like you're whining all the time, but it's a mixture of being fantastic and everything you've ever dreamed of is actually happening, and you know, you're selling all these records and you're really big concerts and the rest of it. But on the other side, most of what you thought it was going to be like, it isn't like that at all. So you've got to change your expectations completely. Learn how to do all these things that you feel awkward and clumsy with at the moment, but with everybody watching now. And I just reacted to it really, really badly. And the whole fame thing for me, the whole becoming successful thing, was very much a double-edged sword. And the bad side was sharper than the other side. And so I just recoiled back from it badly. And I tended to blame live work as being the kind of the real problem. I wanted to spend more time in the studio learning how to write better songs. I thought, you know, that if I'm going to have any sort of longevity whatsoever, it'll be down to the songwriting. So I really need to spend more time in the studio doing that. In the first couple of years, I did at least 2 world tours. Can't remember for sure, and just seemed to be on the road all the time, which I didn't enjoy being on the road. I love it now, but then I didn't enjoy being on the road. So I'm spending most of my time doing something that I really don't want to be doing, all the time feeling that I should be in the studio and I should be writing now, I should be getting that sort of sorted out. So it stopped me from doing what I want to be doing. I'm not doing what I want to be doing. I'm doing all this stuff that I don't want to be doing. The press had just given me grief every single gig that I did. They were all rubbish apparently, you know, no matter how big the lights or whatever. And just struggled, really, really struggled. So because I tended to blame touring as being the thing that put me in public eye, the thing that created most of the press attention, and the thing that was stopping me from developing my songwriting, which is the thing I really needed to do, I decided that getting out of touring was the thing that I needed to do. So I never had any intention of retiring. I just wanted to stop playing live, because then I could step out from the limelight, let it all calm down a little bit, find out, just get your feet back on the ground, really. You know, understand as best you could what had happened, why everything was different, how it was different, what you can do. You can't fix a problem unless you know what it is, you know? And you can't find out what the problem is, unless it's all just stops going past at some ridiculous blurring sort of speed. And that's how it felt life was. It was just mental, absolutely mental. And so I decided that I'm going to get out of touring. If I can stop touring, I can fix all my problems. I can have that breathing space to fix everything and get a grip on what had happened, which is quite a sensible thing to do, I think, in that situation, but badly executed. In that I then decide, because I'm young and got an ego, that I'm not just going to stop retiring, I'm going to make a big thing about it. I'm going to, do these massive big shows, do these farewell concerts, and I'm going to go out with a bang. I'm going to get a touring with a bang. And anyway, and that's why we come to Wembley and my so-called farewell.
So when you actually decided to retire from live performances, what was the initial reaction by your family and, of course, separately your record label, Beggars Banquet?
Well, I think most people were of the opinion that it was just a huge mistake, and it wasn't the thing to do. Can't remember much about how my family felt about it, but I think a family will often obviously sort of think if it's going to make you more healthy or make you happier, then do what you think is right. But I think most people thought it was a mistake, really. And a record company an American record company in particular, were just destroyed, at the thought of it. And that was the beginning of things starting to hurt me. They just pulled the plug completely. And rightfully so, because the way they looked at it was they'd spent all of this money developing me and building me up so that subsequently they would enjoy all the benefits of that. A huge amount of tour support, blah, blah, blah. And then I'm going, well, actually, you're not going to get a chance to do any of that because I'm off. But it wasn't quite like that, because, as I say, I didn't intend to stop making records. So I didn't think I'd be touring anymore. And they saw touring as a fundamental part of selling records, so, which is true. So didn't realise that. Didn't realise I didn't really understand the way the music business worked, to be honest. So I was making all these great big decisions with a certain degree of ignorance as to what it meant to other people, and lack of sympathy actually to what it meant for other people, and just too self-obsessed at the time, too worried about what I was going through to think about what my decisions might do to other people. So not just record companies, but the band as well. Didn't care. I'm in trouble. I'm going to do this because that's going to sort me out. And you can all do what you like, really. And that's, oh God, that's a horrible thing to say, but that's pretty much the way I am. I think, maybe less so now a bit, but a bit like that.
What made you pick Wembley Arena as the place for the last set of
Oh well, Wembley. I think Wembley's probably arguably one of the greatest gigs in the world. I love it. Always have done. Still do. I still think bands look great there. And it's just the place to be. It was a symbol to me of never having any dreams of doing Wembley Stadium, of course, which other people do, which probably is the pinnacle. But to me, Wembley Arena was the place. When you got really big, when you're really, really successful, you played at Wembley Arena. So it just seemed the right place to be.
So at that point, had you really had a good think about beyond the gigs and what you might do?
It was all just about going back to the studio. I was very, very concerned about improving my songwriting. And the fact that I had 3 #1 albums and 2 singles, whatever it was, it's not that it meant nothing to me, but I didn't think then, and I don't think now, that validates you as a songwriter. It doesn't. Getting a #1 single, getting any kind of hit single, has as much to do with other things outside of the music as it does the music itself. Some of the things that can get to #1, clearly songwriting isn't a factor. So I don't think the fact that Our Friends Electric sold all the copies that it sold, I didn't think at the time that it was necessarily had that much to do with the song. I thought it had a huge amount to do with the fact it was a picture disc, a huge amount of to do with the fact that I was, I don't know, it was a different kind of music. It was a new sort of thing. So it was almost like a novelty. You know, electronic music is a bit of a fad, yeah, so we'd go out and buy this. And the fact they got on top of the pops, you know, we were lucky to get on top of the pops in a time when Top of the Pops actually had some serious power. All of these things don't necessarily have anything to do with the music itself. So I didn't feel that because it sold a million copies and so on, that it made me a good songwriter. It made me a lucky songwriter. Now, you know, most people know the story. It was two songs stuck together, and so I've never taken a lot of credit for it being a you know, good songwriting. Two rubbish songs stuck together that accidentally made a good one. You know. So I wanted to go off and learn how to write better songs, and so that was my plan. That was the only after Wembley plan I had, was to just simply go back, write better songs, grow up a little bit without everybody watching, ease back into it at a pace that I was more in control of, with a good bunch of songs, and everything would be fine.
So once the venue had been booked, was it a hectic time planning the event, or was Tony, your father and manager at the time, and still now, at the helm? Was he organising it all for you, or how much?
No, there was a lot to do. I mean, I was completely hands-on in terms of the design of it. Everything about the show was down to well, me and Gaslight, obviously, you know, who put all these things together for us, and the technical side of it. But I mean, we had countless meetings. It was a big thing, and we had countless meetings as to how to technically make it happen. There were quite a lot of things going on that had never been done before. The fact that I wanted it to be multi-level stages, you know, coming out from underneath it and being up in the air, and having this massive thing up in the air that was motorised and would come down, and that itself had little bits with men hanging off it that would go up and down separate to the main thing, and dancers and not dancers. I mean tick and tock and shock and all that sort of weird stuff. There was a lot to it. So no, being hectic, honestly, I can't remember much about it, whether it's hectic or not, but I know there was a huge amount that had to be done. So yeah, I guess it was pretty busy.
Were you more nervous or excited?
Excited. I wasn't nervous about it, because I didn't, at the time, didn't think it was the wrong thing to be doing, and I knew it was going to be absolutely huge. Couldn't imagine. I always used to say, you know, if people don't like the music, or they find me irritating to look at, which is always, you know, possible, likely, especially in those days, you know, when things were, and the press weren't so kind and so on. Don't look at me then. Look at all this stuff going on behind me. You know, if you don't want to look at me, there is this massive, massive thing, which is great to look at. You know, really, really cool to look at. And so I was confident that Wembley was going to be one of the biggest things, if not the biggest thing that anyone had ever seen, and would look amazing, really, and a genuine spectacle. And so I don't remember being nervous about it. I might have been, I've got a rubbish memory, but I don't remember being nervous at all. I thought it was going to look stunning.
And how did the actual rehearsals go? And you can remember, where did they take place?
They were on, can't remember the stage, but there's a great H stage, I think it was called, at Wembley, not Wembley, Shepperton Film Centre. It was something special about that. I think it's the largest stage. It was the largest stage in Europe at the time, and I used to use it in films like for submarines, so you could flood it. I can't remember for sure, but I know it was massive, and they didn't have enough power for us, so we had to get in all generators out. The big generators turn up on lorries, and bloody great, the size of this room, and the rows, you know, 2 or 3 of those all rowed up, and just to run it, it was amazing. Absolutely amazing. It's huge. It was just exciting. It was you know, to drive in there each morning of rehearsal. And we rehearsed for a long time. To drive in there and just walk into this thing, and when it lit up, it was like you would hear the power come through the cables. You know, just like lighting up a small town. You got little faders like on this desk, you know, and you just move this thing. And just like Blackpool lit up in front of you. Yeah. I'm in a toy shop. It's great.
And who decided on the various stage costumes? And were they exclusive? And in fact, do some of them still exist?
Oh, well, a lot of it was a throw-on, really, or follow-on from the Telecon shows. I think most of the outfits were used in Telecon or were, based on it. It really, and in some respects, the middle of it was the Telecon tour, with these other bits stuck on the edge, a load more underneath, and then this great big thing up in the air above it all, which was wrapped around the Telecon roof. Well, Telecon had its own particular kind of roof in light design. Then there's another great big thing stuck on top of that, and then another big one around that, the big helicopter type thing, UFO thing at the front. So it was everything, it was one thing built on another and built another, and the same thing for the clothes and so on. I think Shock had all their own outfits. I can't remember now, but I think I they're like a Telecon jumpsuit and all that. I think the band was pretty much the same.
And about synthesizers, I mean, how many did you have on your stage with you? Can you remember? And did they ever break down, or was that a worry at the time?
I used to break down a lot, actually. I can't remember exactly, but I remember, I think on a Telecon tour we had 22 on stage. And a lot of that was duplicated though, we had like too many Moogs and two Poly Moogs. Because modern stuff is so great, you just press a button, it will flick. Well, MIDI now, you can press a button and everything changes. It's really cool. Didn't have any of that then. If you wanted to change the sound, you had to turn all the knobs and the dials. Some of them are presets, but they were really limited. But things like Mini Moogs, no presets. I mean, you tweak it all by hand. So you'd have to have one preset sound, another preset, another sound. You play that one, and while you're doing that, you're trying to tweak this one. There's another sound back on this one. Yeah, it's really busy. Good fun though, really busy. And they went out of tune a lot. And yeah, reliability was a real factor.
Did you have a backup plan at all, in case anything went wrong, or on the night? One of them.
No.
So thankfully it didn't.
No. Well, what can you do? It depends what goes wrong, doesn't it? I mean, there's a million and one things can go wrong. Things going out of tune was quite a common thing. But I think on one of the nights, my guitar, for example, I had to. I'd be this moment where I picked this big black Les Paul up and do something, and it had been stood over in a corner by a dry ice machine, which had been vaporising it, and it had gone out of tune. It's horrible. And so I do this great big thing, a big moment, and it just going, you sound like rubbish, and you're 8,000, 9,000 people, whatever, and you just feel such an idiot. And so I was so embarrassed at the time, I couldn't think what to do, and in that split second, I'm just going to throw it. And as it left my hand, I thought, no. And I remember seeing it go away, thinking, why did you? Really expensive guitar, and there it goes. There's no way that's going to survive. And just watching it all the way down, forgot the pro I was in the song, and just saw it and it just shattered. Les Paul Custom. God. Yeah. But you can even afford one now. But yeah, there was stuff, stuff like that. And there was plenty of things that went wrong. Lots of little bits and pieces that probably people didn't notice too much. Lamps going out here and there, focuses shifting, and little nitty bitty things that because you're right in there and you know exactly where everything should be, and little cues being missed and stuff like that. But I think overall, from an audience point of view, it seemed to all go reasonably smoothly. I think it did actually go reasonably smoothly, but there's lots of little bits and pieces, but nothing major.
And you had a few guests on the night. I wonder if you could tell us a little bit about them and how it all came about. And obviously Nash the Slash, which is a fan favourite.
Yeah. Well, Nash the Slash, I met him when I went to Canada actually. I think the first American tour we were doing, and we had a support band lined up. We went out the night before the tour started, I think, just to go out to a little club and get ready for it. And he was doing he was playing at this club, and pretty ruthlessly actually just dumped the support band that's doing a whole tour and invited Nash to do the whole thing, which must have been a bit of a blow for them, really. Don't even know they were now. But I just thought it was brilliant, really unique. Still do actually. I've never seen anything like it ever. So got to know him really well. Did that tour. So we come Wembley. He might have even done the British Telecon tour as well. I can't remember now whether he did or not. Anyway, he just seemed a really appropriate person. I really liked him as a really good friend. I thought what he did was unique, as I said, and so he just seemed an ideal person to have. And also he'd played on the Telecon album by then as well. I'd done some violin playing on that, so getting him out as a guest during my set and him being a support behind it, just seemed to make a lot of sense. Shock. I can't remember how I got to know them. I think it was because I saw their picture and I fancied one of the girls in it, or all the girls in it probably.
And that was with Tig and Tok, of course, as well. That was
Yeah, Tig and Tok, really, they weren't the girls.
No.
Tig and Tok were in it. And that's how I got to meet them. And so I went out to see Shock a few times, really just checking the women out in it, and got to know them really well, and they sort of obviously moved on to a more professional level, and thought they were great. And then I started to hang out with them quite a bit and go to see them a lot, and again I thought they were really, really cool, and just started talking about maybe them being able to do a few things in my show as well. And so yeah, I still stand by those two actually. I still think they were the really, really good supports and really good things to add into what I was doing as well. And it made the whole thing one sort of great big evening rather than just me and some support. So there was good connections between all of us.
And although not such a good connection with Shock's manager, I believe.
Oh no, yeah. well, right. I'm not being big-headed or anything, but up until that point, their success had been limited. They were just doing little clubs and things like that. So to be playing at Wembley was quite a big thing for them. And I didn't ask them for any money. Didn't say you got to buy on to give me some money, nothing like that. It was all really friendly, and they're my mates, and you can have what you like. And they come to rehearsals, and they were, it was all really, really friendly. And I felt like I was being nice and doing them a favour and so on. And so the one day the manager turns up and starts saying to me, how big is their name going to be on the billboard at the front of Wembley? I said, I've got no idea. Don't even know what you're talking about. So he started saying, well, we insist it has to be 6 foot high letters. So you can fuck right off. I don't have to mention them at all, actually. It doesn't have to say Shock or Nash to say anything. All it has to say is Gary Numan, actually. And God, it didn't upset me with the band, and it had no effect on their relationship whatsoever. But he was out. I just thought it was the most ungrateful thing to get something that good given to you for free, and then start demanding more. Yeah, jumped up little shit. Anyway, I never saw him again. Actually, after that, I don't know if they got rid of him or not, but I never saw him again. I think they did. Yeah, idiot.
At that time, Gary, of course, you were a very, very established band, backing band of Paul Gardner, Cedric Sharpley, Chris Payne and Russell Bell, and of course Dennis Haynes. What do you think they felt about this being the last gigs ever?
I'm not sure, because I know they had the whole Dramatis thing already lined up. So I have a feeling that they thought it was probably a good thing for them, because they were just about to go off and fame and fortune of their own, and they would use their association with me as a springboard for that, which is understandable. And I think that they felt that they were in a really strong position, and everything was going very well. So and it was going to be their own thing, their own music with Russell singing, and they would be less of a band standing behind me and their own band standing at the front. So I don't really think they had any worries about it. I'm quite sure they were expecting to be going out next year touring their own album and doing really, really well. So I don't think they were worried about it, to be honest.
Now, of course, Paul Gardner, your best friend, wasn't in Dramatis. So what do you think? I mean, can you remember what the conversations you were having at the time, or how he felt about this? Yeah,
well, Paul was still meant to be a part of where I was going. So with the band, really. I mean, I wasn't intending to just not use anyone again. It was a touring thing that I was going to be stopping. So I don't I don't know whether, I don't remember Paul being sort of overly bothered about not touring or touring it. You know, it just kind of just went along really. But Paul's problems were such that he wasn't really too sort of capable in the studio at times, and so you know, just other people would come in and you like, I think the next couple of albums there were other people were mainly playing bass. So that wasn't really because I was trying to get rid of Paul. It was because Paul was damaging himself, and there's not much you can do about it. So I don't think he was at the time of Wembley. I don't think he was worried about his future or what was going to happen to him as far as I was concerned. Yeah, because he was always meant to be part of it. He was meant to be a part of it right up to the day he died. It was just down to him to sort himself out. And you know, I said to him all the way through it, as soon as you sort yourself out, you know, there you are, right where you've always been. You just, but until then, you can't play. So I'll get someone that can. But you know, you are not being replaced. This is for you to go and sort yourself out. You know, so there's no pressure from me. Just sort yourself out. As soon as you're ready, come back, and we're off again. And he didn't. But at the time of Wembley, there was no question of him being got rid of, nothing like that.
Gary, I'd like to talk a little bit more about the light show that you had. I mean, you were always known for your amazing light shows, but Wembley turned out to be the biggest moving structure that had ever been staged in the UK at that time. Did Gaslight help you put the light show together?
Yeah, well, they were the company that we used to use for all these things. So they would organise everything really. The manufacturing, pretty much everything on those shows in those days was made specifically for that particular tour or gig. The panels, whatever it might be, and Wembley was no exception. So there was a lot of stuff had to be manufactured, obviously well up front for rehearsals and so on, and then adjusted if it didn't quite fit. They were behind all of that, and then the basic lighting rig and structure to be hired in, all the wiring, everything, how much there was needed to be, trucks, generators, everything. Yeah, it's a big job, really big job, and they were the people behind it all. So sort of largely my ideas as to how it would look and what we needed. I would kind of draw these things on paper and say, right, that's it. And then they would then go off and find out what they had to do to make it look like that. So it's quite easy for me, really. But no, they were good. They certainly charged enough.
Well, actually, going on to that, I mean, did you never know how much it ever costed at that time? Did you not really care just because it looked fantastic?
No, I used to know. I'm frightened to say the figure now in case I say it different to what I said it before. But my memory of it is that we lost 30 grand a night, but I might be totally forgetting that now.
And that was in those days, of course.
Yeah. I mean, sold out. I mean, you're talking 9,000 people, 3 nights, all sold out. I don't know, 27,000 people. And we're still losing a fortune. But it was that big. Yeah, so we knew that was going to happen. That was my way of sort of going out with a bang, I guess. But, oh God, it makes me cry just thinking about it. Well, I'm glad we did it in that it really was something special. But I wish I hadn't retired or stopped touring. I wish I'd never, in most respects, I wish I'd never done it. But in terms of putting on a show and experiencing something like that, I'm glad I did it. But if you look at the money, I wish I'd never done it. If you look at what it did to my career, I wish I'd never done it. It's just bad.
What actually happened to the light panels and the actual lights afterwards? I mean...
Don't know. Really don't. No idea. All went somewhere. I'm sure Gaslight made good use of them and didn't pay us. Do you ever tell the story about it? You know, the very first tour I did, the lighting panels on the 79 touring principal tour. When I was watching television one day, and I think it was those panels. It might even have been the Wembley panel. I'm not sure. Anyway, I'm watching television one day, and there's Hot Gossip and that dancing group, and they're doing their thing and their light show. And I thought, hang on, it's all my panels. They're using all my panels. So, and that's meant to be in a warehouse in storage somewhere. So I said, I just see my panels on the telly. I said, oh yeah, I was going to tell you about that. You've been on tour for 2 months. I mean, when was you going to tell me that you're renting them out? Yeah.
They went to a good home though.
No, they didn't have them. They were just renting them from someone that was supposedly storing them for me. So I don't know what happened to them eventually. They were probably just all broken up. The trouble with things like that is that once you've used them in a great big gig and most people have seen them, there's not a lot you can do with them after that. I think the reason Hot Gossip got away with it when mine were going up that way, like Venetian blinds, and they put them on their side, so they went like that. And but I was amazed that they would even use those again. I thought these have been seen, and can, that idea is done, so you can't use it again. And I think that the Wembley panels and all that light and stuff, I think that was definitely true of that. I mean, every now and again you see a little, sort of recently actually, a little light show. You think, oh, that's not the same panels, but the same idea. I honestly don't know. I mean, there was a lot of them though, and they were all about bloody great things, 4 foot by 4 foot. And I thought, how many do we have? I don't know, 40, 50, 60 of them, I don't know. We had lots and lots of big 40-foot lorries, trailered lorries, full of this stuff. It took it, again, this is probably a story I've told so many times, it's changed and I don't remember it accurately anymore, but my memory is that there was about 30 odd people spent 3 days or 5 days building the set. It was that big. So no, I think I was never going to use those panels again anyway, as far as I was aware. So they were no reason to store them anymore. Just dumped.
They were great on eBay.
Yeah, wouldn't it just?
Now, of course, you also had Huey and Dewey, the pyramid-shaped robots, and of course your Down in the Park car as well. Now, of course, again, did they suffer the same fate? Did they after the show? Did they?
Huey and Dewey. Yeah, I actually don't know what happened to Huey and Dewey. It's a real shame, actually. I wish I'd have kept that sort of stuff. It'd be just lovely to have as a memory of those times. I think my mum still got the clothes, but I didn't think like that. I'm not really a nostalgia sort of person, I guess, and don't think that way. I thought the car. I thought I had a really clear memory of giving that away in a competition, but it's absolute. I've made that up because about a month ago, I was at my dad's house and it's there. It's in my dad's house. It's in his garden, under a cover. Good as new. Nothing wrong with it. It's just no rust, nothing. It's I couldn't believe it.
What was it made of? Do you remember?
Aluminium.
No.
Aluminum, as Americans say. Honestly, I was really surprised. I thought that was like in the mid-80s something. It was given away as a competition. I even think I remembered the boy it was given it to. Absolutely made that up. It never happened. There it is in the garden.
Was it the Jimmy Will Fix It show, maybe? I do remember that.
I remember it. No, little kid that drove around in it didn't smile. No. Anyway, that is still around somewhere. It'll never be used again. All the electrical part of it, all the underneath workings, obviously that's all gone. But the actual shell itself, still got the stripes on it. I mean, it's perfect. Absolutely perfect. Maybe I should give it to someone.
So Gary, what can you tell us about your actual memories of the actual gigs, being on stage? Was it just a blur, or can you still remember now certain moments?
Yeah, I can not much, to be really truthful, actually, during the gig. I can remember, I'm not the guitar throwing, I can remember that. I can remember that, I think it was on films, the 2 big spotlights would come out of the structure that moved, and I would only be so far away. And I remember they were so hot that it was making my sweat boil, and I'm steaming. I was really hurting, and I couldn't blink. Well, as much as possible, I couldn't blink. Keep your eyes open. It's just blinding. These were proper spotlights you'd normally have at the back of the venue. and they were about as close as this speaker, 2 of them, right there. Looked great, man. I'm just glowing, you know. But it was really painful. Remember that. Remember. Can't remember too much about actually looking out and seeing individual people, and there were things being thrown a lot, and I mean that's all become a bit of a blur now. I'm not really remember feeling that in terms of my life, this was a really one of those moments. Well, it was 3 nights, but it just felt like that. Yeah, as a combined thing, I was aware that it would always be a pivotal moment in my life. Yeah, it was a big deal for me to be there. It's not one of those things that I can reel out lots of anecdotes about this song and that song. I don't remember it that way at all. It's more like it's an emotional kind of memory than an individual. Too many individual things happen. I remember Dennis playing a bum note in one song. No, I do think it was. I think I said before it was relatively smooth in terms of the big
production, yeah.
The big moments. There was one point where I come up from the stage into a cage and the cage went up in the air. I remember I had to lay on a trolley and to get round the back, lay on a trolley, and then I had to lay really flat my head to one side because there wasn't enough clearance. And then I was pulled through really, really quickly with all the structure. And if I had my head upwards, it used to hit in my head and snap my nose. I remember being a bit nervous about that. So I'm laying flat back on the trolley, and I got like these bits of metal there, going past your head. And just, I did love it. It was, to be part of something that big, and I was really.
It's like
proud
a big
of
adventure almost, or it was,
yeah. It's everything that you've ever thought being a big rock star was all about. Massive show, huge amount of people, big venue. More lights in a small town. Just, it was an event. It was really cool.
And of course, the set was over 2 hours. And how did you decide the actual set list from all the songs that you could have possibly chosen?
Well, I'd only done, what had it been, 4 albums at the time, and I just finished in dance, I think. Is it done? Yeah. So I didn't have a massive amount of songs to choose from. It's much more difficult now because there's so many songs to choose from. But in those days, I probably only had about 40, 45 out on records. If you're going to do 2 hours set, you're only going to do 20 or more. So you're going to do probably more than half your repertoire, as it were. So it didn't seem that difficult, really. Your main singles and all it's easy, really, really easy. There's certain songs on each album that I felt were weak, and you just don't do those. You still do most of the album. I don't know how many singles I had out at the time. I don't know, 5 or 6. I'm not sure, maybe less. So no, it's easy.
Now, of course, it was odd that a lot of the fans said this was one of the loudest concerts they've ever been to. Amazingly loud. But at that time, of course, you were of course had just finished the comparatively sedate dance album, which was that something that it was a deliberate move away, really, from the machine rock of the previous albums? Is that something you were?
I always try to find something new to do, and so it wasn't a conscious decision to do a relatively quiet album compared to a louder one. It was just a new sort of music. I was really, the whole fretless bassing and actually the beginning of a direction I wish I'd never gone in, saxophone and so on. And anyway, seemed the right thing to do at the time. And I was interested in experimenting with different kinds of music and different kinds of instrumentation and seeing what it would do, because it leads you to write in different ways and to widen the writing scope, as it were. So, but it wasn't a deliberate reaction to what I'd done before. I didn't realise people thought it was that loud. I do remember though, we had underneath Wembley, it's kind of like Big John swimming pool really, it's hollow, and we had lots and lots and lots of low frequency cabinets, huge ones, bigger than me, great big things, put under the floor facing upwards, and then connected to the main structure of the building by scaffolding. So whenever you hit something really, really low, the floor would shake. I wanted people to feel it as much as hear it. And so it was designed in such a way that it was actually tied into the fabric of the building, so the building would feel all the low frequency, and it would be transmitted through the rooms. So I'm not sure it was particularly, well, it was loud, but I'm not sure it was stupidly loud. But I think the fact that people felt it probably made it more of an experience than other gigs I might have been to. Yeah,
The old Polymoog bass notes.
yeah, yeah. That's a feeling of power. Now, when you hit a note and you actually feel a whole building just trembles. That's cool.
So what did you do on the final night after you finished the shows? I mean, how did you actually feel when it was all over?
Well, as the last song finished, it was at that point that it started to dawn on me that I just made a huge mistake. Right then, and you know, you do your final bows and everyone's going mad, and you walk off, and as you're walking off, you're thinking, this is the last time I'm ever going to do this. And you look back, and I remember thinking, well, what have I done? And then a little bit of after show afterwards, and then about half an hour later or so, when everyone had gone, I hadn't taken it down at that point. So it was all still sitting there, and the place was empty. I remember I went back out on the stage on my own and left everyone. Well, there's loads of people backstage, you know, sort of people coming to party and so on. And I was not really having too good a time, because I was realising that, you know, that I shouldn't have done it. And so I went back out on stage and just sat at the front and looked out at all the empty seats and that, and I just went, stupid. Now I knew that, you know, the second that last song finished and I started to walk off, I knew that I'd made a mistake. Huge mistake. And what can you do? You know, done it, haven't you? What can you do? You just you can spend the next 25 years trying to make up for it.
This might be an obvious but stupid question, but what do you think might have happened if you'd not announced your retirement and just simply toured the dance album?
Well, I think if I'd done that, then I probably would have got into trouble. You know, probably become a drug addict or something. I think my reasons for a lot of my reasons for wanting to do Wembley were good, sensible reasons. I did need to get out for a bit. I did need to concentrate on my songwriting. I did need to slow it all down and try to get my feet back on the ground and understand what had happened. You know, I had gone from nothing to very, very big in no time at all. And I had no time to come to terms with that and understand what was going on. And I think I was reacting pretty badly to a lot of stuff. So it was a very, very sensible decision. But what I should have done was just done the big Wembley gigs, you know, established the fact that I was at that level, and then taken a little bit of time to just get myself sorted out and come back when I was ready, but come back gigging when I was ready. Maybe not with dance, but with the one after that, or the one after that even. Didn't matter so much. That would have been a much better thing to have done. If I'd done that, there's a good chance that I wouldn't have had half the problems, 3/4 of the problems that I've had since. You know. But who can say? You know, I wouldn't have alienated the record companies. That would have made a massive difference. I wouldn't have alienated most of the fans, which obviously would have made a massive difference. So I'd have presumably had all these people that would have seen this massive, massive show and thought it was perhaps, you know, one of the best things they'd ever seen, and come back for more year after year. But then again, having done something as big as that and lost as much money as I did each night doing it, whatever that was, for sure, you can't keep doing that. So maybe I was just going to disappoint people anyway, one way or another. I don't know. And all this thing about me saying when I wanted to develop my songwriting and get better at songwriting, I didn't really. I don't think I did. I think I've written some good stuff over the years, but I think that the years throughout the 80s arguably aren't the years where I really got my songwriting sorted out. That came more recently, if anything, in the last sort of 10 or 12 years. So the songwriting part of wanting to develop more time in the studio and develop my songwriting, although again a good thing to aim for, I don't think I actually achieved it. I went from doing something that I was comfortable with and happy with, and this thing I got in me that wants to not repeat what I've done before and do something different and keep trying to do something new all the time doesn't necessarily mean that the things you try are the things that work for you are the things that you should be doing. More recently there have been, and when you're in that situation it's great. It's really exciting, really enjoyable, you love what you do and you're really happy doing it. But I like dance, and I actually really liked I Assassin. I know that probably sold worse out of all my albums except for one or two. I really like that. And then Warrior, and then it was all right, but then it started to slide, and then it really went. So I don't think I put an album out as good as Telecon or Pleasure Principle until Sacrifice Exile time, really. So everything that came after that for a long, which is why I don't do them live. I don't really play much, hardly anything really from all of those albums now. I've done for years because I don't think I did very well with those albums. I don't have good memories of them. It's just one sort of dismal failure after another, each one getting bigger than one before, and don't have good memories of it.
Well, getting back to after 1981, after the concerts, of course, instead of touring dance, you decided to fly around the world.
Yeah.
Did this mammoth trip take you time to think about the previous sort of 2-3 years, or was you just purely concentrating on the flying?
I was pretty much concentrating on the flying. I wanted to do the round the world trip because I wanted an adventure. I wanted to do something. I wanted to do something that I felt was undeniably, not brave necessarily, but an achievement, an accomplishment that was undeniable, that wasn't down to opinion. Everything about music is down to opinion. The fact that I'm credible now and considered to be innovative now is still only other people saying it. So next year they might say something different. I'm not innovative anymore. And you got an album that's #1 in the chart and it's selling shitloads of them, and the press say you're rubbish. Well, what's right then? Are you a good musician because you sell lots of records? Are you a good musician because the press say you are? There is no truth to it. There's no good or bad really. It's all opinion, and that can get a bit wearing, especially if a lot of it ain't very good. And you want something to be proud of that is undeniable. And that was a round the world trip to me. To fly around the world in a little airplane is undeniably an achievement. Not many people have done it. And it's all about that really. It's more selfish kind of looking for praise, I think. Not from the press necessarily, for self-esteem. I've never, certainly in those days, didn't get self-esteem by selling records. Didn't get it. People would say often that how can you not be proud of yourself? You've achieved all of this, and I said, well, yeah, but it's not much of an achievement really, because a lot of it is down to luck. A lot of it is down to the hard work of others, and just being in the right place at the right time. Maybe having the right face. Can't take any credit for that. I didn't make it. Couldn't take much credit for any of it really. Still don't take much credit for any of it, really. But the round the world trip, proud of that. I actually did that. Wasn't lucky. Well, you're lucky, I guess. You didn't die, but it wasn't an opportunist meeting at a record company that decided to make you have a picture disc. You know, oh, all of a sudden you're famous. Oh, aren't you clever? Really? If that bloke hadn't made it a picture disc, I wouldn't be famous. Therefore, nobody would ever have heard of me. So how am I clever? Doesn't come into it. But flying around the world, being able to fly at all is pretty cool, I think. But flying around the world, yeah, that's something special. And it took determination, because it had its near-death experience moments on more than one occasion. And to keep going, I felt proud of myself. It would have been quite easy just to have quietly done what Simon Le Bon did and just get off the boat for a bit. I shouldn't say that. I don't even know the truth behind that story, but that's not fair. But I didn't. I was on it every second of the way, and I was proud of it, and it made me feel. It made me feel proud of myself as a person. It had nothing to do with being a pop star or not. But when I come back from that and stood on the ground, you know, the fact that I didn't have big muscles and tattoos and I couldn't punch people, all those things that go to making you manly, and I don't drink and all that, I felt proud of myself, and I felt I could call myself a man. And I hadn't felt that before. I used to feel really embarrassed about being called a man when I was 21, because I didn't feel like it. I was a makeup wearing skinny little runt, you know, that had been lucky. Didn't feel like a man. It was a personal quest for self-esteem. So I wasn't doing too much thinking about Wembley and career. I could have, it would have been a good chance to have done it, but I think what was done by then, wasn't it? You know, mistakes had been made, and I was already in the process of thinking what I could do to get out of that. Flying around the world was more a case of making sure I lived to see the next landing, really.
So going back to the Wembley video, who actually decided to film Wembley? And did you have much input with Derek Burbidge and the way it would be filmed and edited?
Well, I had a lot of say in that. You know, I knew what was going to be on the set, what effects are going to be happening, and what things that I wanted to point out. You know, at a certain point, this is going to happen. Make sure you get that, and you know, blah 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 blah. And you need to be way back there because this is going to be that wide and it's going to move, and so you need to make sure you get that, and so on. Still didn't get back far enough. It was too wide for the camera. It was that big a set, you know. Well, that's what he said. Didn't actually. I don't think there's any point. I wouldn't absolutely swim my life in this, but I don't think there's any point on the Wembley video where you actually see the entire width of the thing. It is so on. But yeah, I was very involved. I was much more involved in things in those days than I am now. I don't know whether I'm working with better people now and I feel more able to just sit back and I know it's going to be good, or whether I'm just less of a control freak than I used to be. Probably that, I think, because you know, people in those days are good at what they did. But equally, everything was new to me then, and so it's exciting, and you want to learn about it, and you want to see how things are edited, and it's just fun because you've not done it before, and it's nice to be involved in. So yeah, it's a mixture of all those things really. I'm a bit of a control freak though.
Did you actually go in the edit, and were you part of that process?
I honestly don't remember whether I sat down. I'd be absolutely amazed if I didn't. I'm sure I did. I would have sat down there and, you know, watched it all coming together and had my little say. When
Micromusic was released on video, it came out and just went straight to the top of the video charts. Did you feel even then that video would hold such an importance for bands? I mean, because it was just a little bit before the MTV and video culture.
Yeah, I know. I did way back when we did Cars. The reason we made the Cars video, record companies just didn't seem to see anything in it at all. Couldn't see it. I actually saw too much into it. I mean, I honestly thought the video would be the end of live performances. I really did, and I wanted to get in there. I think with Touring Principle we had the first ever commercially available video. Cars was one of the early promos. I was right there with it. I really did think that it was the future. It is. It's massively important for bands. It really is. But it's pretty obvious, really, when you think about it. You know, the way a band looked, poster culture, and So and it's always been a big part of it, and the video is just an extension of that. It's just it's a combination of poster culture and sort of general advertising and music all wrapped into one big thing, and it was obviously going to be important.
Okay, we're now 25 years on now from Wembley 1981. What did you think of the person who got on stage at Wembley, and can you still recognise him?
Barely. I mean, it's a long time. It's a long time. 25 years to be doing this for a living. It's a good life. You're busy, and there's a lot of things happen, and you kind of live life to the full. And there's lots to gain from it and lots to lose from it, and it's a relentless pressure that gets to you at times, but it's just relentless. There's constant need to come up with new things, and around every corner you can trip up. And how many people have come and gone in the last 25 years? It's just it's just relentless pressure all the time. Anyway, having said it, but it's if you've got the right sort of attitude for it, it's something you live with it. But it's changed me, obviously, from what it was then. In some ways, for the better, I think, but not in all ways. I almost look the same, but well, almost look the same. But in terms of attitude and so on, I think the only thing that's similar. The only thing that's the same now as it was then is that I still don't consider what I do to be important, and I still don't think it's special, and I still feel lucky. Felt lucky then, feel lucky now.
Well, Gary, finally, can you sum up the feelings for those heady nights at Wembley all those years ago?
What, during it?
No, from now looking back.
It's difficult because it's coloured by 25 years of regret, having wished I hadn't done it. So, but really proud of it, massively proud of it. So I'm torn really, but between the two. It was an amazing thing to be there, to be a part of it. For that many people, for that big a rig, to be the reason that it was all happening is a unbelievably cool thing. I defy anyone to not get off on that. But in terms of a career move, the stupidest one I ever made. The only really, really big mistake I ever made, but corker. If you're going to make a big one, make a really big one. But no, I'm really just proud of it, but wish I'd never done it.
Gary Numan, here's to another 25. Thank you very much for your time.
Pleasure.
Bye-bye. Thank you.